Bread makes you full, makes you strong, makes you know that you can survive another day, another morning. Bread covers and contains the vacant places inside of you. So you grow strong. Bread makes you say, tomorrow, when company comes, I'll sit at the table. And no one will dare say to me, go eat in the kitchen, because they will see how beautiful I am. They will see the bread of me, the broken seams in my sidewalk, the yeast of me defying chemical formulations, the white of my heart and the brown of my skin, baked to perfection. I am fed. I am whole. Thank you, Bread for the City, for believing that I, too, can rise.
So Terrance Moore was a community member who, in 2012, got out of jail and was organizing with the Healthy, Affordable Food for All campaign. The thing about Terrance always was he was gonna check you. He was gonna call you on your stuff. He was very curious, very inquisitive, and very committed to not just changing his own life, but changing the lives and the opportunities, frankly, for the people who he knew and loved, right? People who he grew up with.
He was a natural advocate. And when he came out, he felt like he did not see his people advocating for themselves like they used to. And he wanted to do something about that. He suggested that we take what we have learned as a group and share it with our community for free. And that's what we did.
It was never a question that we were going to start an organizing institute, because that really was like Terrance's vision. And so when we got the resources to do it, we started the Terrance Moore Organizing Institute.
We've lived the experience, and we want to be there for others that are living it and be the example and let them know, I made it through. You can make it through too. I think the effect of the Terrance Moore Organizing Institute has changed Anacostia. We're here in Ward 8 in a positive way, because we have quite a few community leaders and advocates that have gone through the Terrance Moore Organizing Institute that are going into the community, going to the different community meetings and doing different things and advocating in several areas of advocacy in the city.
The power of organizing is to have someone else who's there to say, like, no, 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 dream bigger. If we know that people deserve these things, then really our role as an organization is to provide the resources, the training, the technical support, the any kind of support that we can to help people really effectuate these campaigns in their own neighborhoods, in their own buildings, in their own cities, on their own streets. Unfortunately, Terrance was no longer here to benefit. He was murdered. And what is also interesting about the murder is that I think about it every time I come to the Southeast Center. I thought about it today before doing this, is just what a difference having a safe, stable place to live makes, even in just people's access to you, right? What it would mean if people aren't sleeping in their car, but instead are sleeping in a place that's safe. We are excited to be bringing the Terrance Moore Organizing Institute back this year, woohoo! And are most excited, honestly, about the possibilities of getting folks who are going to be supporting campaigns all over the city. So we can't wait to look at our folks supporting the Cancel the Rent campaigns and supporting campaigns around making sure that our undocumented folks have voting rights, and campaigns around making sure that everyone has healthy access to healthy, safe food, and campaigns that are in buildings and in communities and in neighborhoods. Like the Terrance Organizing Institute is about so much more than Bread for the City, but it's about seeding change all across the city.
If you could have anything happen that would turn this around for you, what would it be?
Give a man a chance, man. If you ain't giving me no room, where's the room to change at? If you just gonna keep profiling me because of your own mental thoughts about how I look or where I'm from, I'm never gonna make it. You know what I'm saying? I swear I feel. If you don't give me a chance to change or even room to change, what am I supposed to do, man? You go to all these programs after programs, and then you sit, and after you sit, you wait. And that's an ongoing wait. And you come home with a different outlook, thinking that you're gonna get something from somebody, an outreach program or whatever the case may be, and it's not even like that. It really ain't. And I can't say that about Bread of the City, because that's my family, that's my home, man. You know what I'm saying? It's the only place that I see refuge in. It's the only place I feel safe.
So much bigger than my fears, 'cause you're calling me higher.
I had been at Bread for the City for some 15 years or so. And I was walking through the hallway at our Northwest Center, and one of the staff came up to me and said, you know, George, have you ever noticed that every person who comes into our center is a person of color? Do you ever ask yourself why that's the case? And I had to be honest with you, I hadn't really thought about it in that way, but it was really sort of the first conversation that really sort of made me want to explore, why is everybody who lives in poverty in DC a person of color? Because it's not unique to Bread for the City. That's probably true about virtually every nonprofit working in the city. And so whereas across the country, there may be a more diverse community of folks living in poverty, in DC, it seems to only afflict people of color. And that was important for us, me and my staff in our community, to get what we call a racial equity analysis, to understand like what are the sort of foundational elements that creates that kind of pattern where Black and brown people, you can predict that they're gonna be the ones who have lower incomes and lower wealth levels and have housing security problems and food security problems. So that's sort of, in a lot of ways for me, that was a real beginning of the journey to figure out and to really sort of start to fight poverty through a racial equity lens, through the lens that really acknowledged that it seems to be disproportionately affecting people of color nationally and in DC almost exclusively.
The thing about racial equity and racial justice is it is about resources, it is about systems, and it is about hearts and minds and people, right? Insofar as people are who run and operate systems.
It makes us think intentionally about the unique reasons, the history, the policies. Like there are a number of things that have happened in our society that really sort of have really caused the kind of race-based disparities that we're really fighting against. They're historical ones, and they're ones that really sort of still play themselves out today. And so that was really the big changes. We had to really start thinking about, how race had played such an important role in who was poor and who wasn't, who had privilege and who didn't. And in a way, and then to go upstream and start to interrupt those things. And that is how it has played itself out for us. That's the journey we're on now, is to fight poverty through that lens.
Welcome everyone to the 2022 Good Hope Gala. We are coming to you live, safely distanced, with a very small group from this beautiful Michelle Obama Southeast Center of Bread for the City on Good Hope Road. I'm joined tonight by CEO George Jones, and we'll hear a little later from special guest John Fee, Bread for the City's board president. George, thanks for sharing that story earlier about Bread for the City developing investment in advocacy, in community organizing, and uprooting racism.
Thank you, Ashley. I'm so glad to be here with you tonight, and of course with all of our guests watching at home, watching to hear about the work we do and to continue to grow at Bread for the City to dismantle racist systems. That's near and dear to my heart. I hope you'll see throughout the night why the racial equity and racial justice work undertaken by our advocates, staff, community members is a vital part of our mission to help people here in DC.
That's right. And not only are we excited to share Bread for the City's story with all of you tonight, but we can't forget one of the reasons we are all gathered together, apart, tonight is to support the mission and work of Bread for the City. We have an ambitious goal tonight to raise $219,000. This number, $219,000, represents the amount needed to keep Bread for the City running for 1 week. That's the full cost of 1 week of doctor visits, legal representation, social services, providing clothing, dental checkups, advocating for a more just DC, along with providing upwards of 8,000 households with food every week.
That was a mouthful, but it's true. We do all and a lot more in a week.
Many of you will remember that during Good Hope Galas before the pandemic, in what we might call the before times, the annual event would feature a segment all in a day's work, where we would raise the amount needed all together to run Bread for the City for 1 day.
I remember that. Well, we even did all day's work when the gala was called Art with a Heart. I know a lot of you remember that old title.
That's true, and I know working together now, tonight, we can achieve the $219,000 needed to run both our centers for an entire week. All of you at home, you've already provided $107,000. Thank you. Remember, you can scan the QR code on your screen. You can go to the event streaming website where that QR code also is, and you can go to breadforthecity.org/goodhopegala and to donate and support this effort to get to the $219,000.
In addition to raising funds for all of our wraparound services tonight, you will also be hearing more about Bread for the City's upstream racial equity and racial justice mandate and why we are called to do this work. I want to take a moment to acknowledge those in the funding community who have taken early steps to support this work. Many of these partners have been with us for many years. Thank you to each of you and every one of you for supporting much of the work we'll be hearing about this evening.
Let's get back to the celebration. Coming up, we're going to hear from some of our leaders on their own journeys as advocates, and we're going to tour this beautiful new facility on Good Hope Road. Say it with me, the Michelle Obama Southeast Center of Bread for the City.
I mean, I was having problems with the city, or not even the city, my employer. And so every once a week, they would have community lawyers come through to help you with employment work and things of that nature. And so my very first visit there, just so happened waiting in the lobby, I bumped into a lady. So we started talking, we had a good conversation, and she introduced me to Miss Terry Acker. And Miss Terry Acker said, oh yeah, we have this Terrance Organizing Institute where we train community members to come advocate for their community and things of that nature. So I it sounds interesting. I'll come through and see what's going on. And then to see African-American community members addressing things in our community and talking about how do we combat this and let's come together, I was like, man, yeah, this is the place for me. The very first campaign I got involved with was DC General. When the mayor initially announced that they were going to shut down DC General, we said, hey, we got to do something about this. So we had a protest over at the Stadium Armory. The Metro for that stopped. And it rained a little bit, but I made the signs, I came up with the scale and stuff. And so that was my initial drawback into doing art. So now I do art regularly. I realized bread is it's bigger than what you would expect. And it supports things that you wouldn't even know that they're supporting, which is encouraging. When you feel welcome in a place, you find your voice. And so bread is good about opening people up. See, the advocacy department is led by Arja Taylor, and she has a group of community leaders, which I'm a part of, called CORE. And so being a part of the advocacy CORE, by the time you get to that stage, you went through the Terrance Organizing Institute where we teach you about what we're doing. You're really invigorated to say, I am worth something to voice my opinion or you will be heard. I've been down to City Hall to testify on personal things. Nothing for bread, but they encouraged me and trained me to do that.
I'm Mark Aaron. I'm Vice Chairman of Bread for the City, a wonderful organization, and we're in front of the brand new Michelle Obama Center that Bread has built. You know, it's named after Michelle Obama because Michelle Obama cared for people, had respect for people, you know, treated them with dignity. And respect and dignity is what Bread is all about. So let's go take a tour today and see this brand new facility. Bread for the City's touchstones are dignity, respect, service, justice. Here we come together to listen, to learn, build coalitions, demand change for truly affordable housing in the district. We live in a society that could safely house everyone, but chooses not to because people say you gotta earn your right to be housed. Check out this space. Bread for the City is over the moon with how our new food pantry turned out. Even though today we operate the largest food pantry in the district, we've never had this much space. Every month, 16,000 of our neighbors experiencing food insecurity receive free groceries from Bread for the City. All the groceries are stored, they're sorted and packed at Bread for the City and then delivered directly to clients' homes. Once a month, we also operate a free farmers market. Anyone can come and shop our selection of fresh produce and any other goodies we may be offering that day, like free food for your dogs and cats in partnership with the Humane Rescue Alliance.
My name is Michael Bigley, the director of the Venable Foundation, which is the philanthropic arm of the Venable law firm. Bread for the City and Venable have a long-standing partnership which includes providing pro bono services to the community. Bread for the City's commitment to providing access and opportunity to the community so that we all thrive is essential to Venable's beliefs and why we support this organization. Bread for the City serves everyone who comes through our doors, regardless of their situation or background, with dignity and respect. Being able to warmly welcome a new or existing client here at the front desk and then get to know them better and what their needs might be and how Bread might be able to help in our brand new intake rooms allows us to better serve this community. Diapers aren't cheap, but they are essential for health and well-being. And that's why Bread for the City distributes more than 50,000 diapers every single month, thanks to our partnership with the DC Diaper Bank. And it's not just diapers. We have everything from formula to wipes to cereal to high chairs to car seats. All of an infant's essential needs are available at Bread for the City. And you know what else babies need? Clothes. We got that too. Welcome to the Bread Boutique. More than 700 visitors shop at Bread for the City's clothing boutique every month for apparel for all ages, sizes, and seasons. Need a new outfit for a party? We got you. Have a job interview? We can make sure you look your best.
I'm Alan Pemberton with Covington & Burling in Washington. We are longtime supporters of Bread for the City. We, in fact, supported it before it was known as Bread for the City, since it was Zacchaeus Legal Clinic. And we supported the original move to the Southeast, and then we have been among the early funders of the expanded Southeast Center. Welcome to Bread for the City's first ever job center. We are thrilled to be expanding our popular and successful pre-employment program to provide specialized training services in partnership with other Bread for the City programs like our medical and dental clinics. Look at our beautiful smart classroom, computer lab, and expansive conference room, giving us the opportunity to train up Bread for the City clients looking to enter or advance in the job market, while also, of course, making sure that they have access to all of Bread for the City's programs. And this is just one part of what our social workers and case managers accomplish in this beautiful new space. The community may also work with our behavioral health therapists, participate in our representative payee program, receive case management assistance, and join our Women Empowered program. And while Bread for the City is working with you on your mind and body, you can also stop by our fitness center. Access to justice should not be limited by one's ability to hire a lawyer. However, 86% of households in the United States with low income receive little or no help with civil legal challenges. Bread for the City's legal clinic helps fill this justice gap by providing advice and full representation in housing law, family and immigration law, and public benefits law. With our help, individuals receive same-day advice and representation in court during critical stages of child support cases or when facing eviction or loss of a housing subsidy. They can receive legal services while escaping domestic violence, can overcome barriers in getting a government-issued ID, and we can help them organize to achieve legal solutions to effect systemic change on community-identified issues. Bread for the City's legal clinic is housed on the same floor as our medical home because sometimes you actually need a legal intervention to improve health outcomes. In partnership with Bread's doctors, we work hard to help patients keep their benefits current, stop evictions, and protect them from abusive relationships.
I'm Ashley Domm, Bread for the City's Chief Development Officer. I had the distinct honor of serving at Bread for the City when we closed and wrapped up the Building on Good Hope campaign that became the Michelle Obama Southeast Center of Bread for the City. I'm in our medical home in Southeast right now that was built and opened because of all of the donors that supported this center, all of the community members, the DC city government, all of our supporters, our staff, all of you. And you heard earlier from just a few of our supporters of the Michelle Obama Southeast Center. But I have to say, we had 750 individual donations to open this community center, this new facility. That's 750 individuals and organizations who care about Southeast, who care about Bread for the City, care about our work, and care about this community. Did you know that medical care was the first service provided by Bread for the City? However, before the Michelle Obama Southeast Center of Bread for the City, the Bread for the City clinic has never operated in Ward 8 or anywhere in Southeast. We are so excited that this clinic is now open. Dr. Kim started in October to provide primary medical care, needle exchange services, COVID-19 testing and vaccinations, and more. Our new full-time dentist, Dr. Ashley, started in December to provide oral examinations, x-rays, dental cleaning, restorative work, extractions, and dentures. And next year, we'll hire an optometrist to provide comprehensive eye care for at least 350 patients each year. We are in love with this new clinic and are grateful to our community for making this resource possible and for entrusting us to be their partners and helping them achieve their healthcare goals.
'Cause you're calling me higher.
I was a regular client. I live northern part of the city at the time, and I was getting just like groceries, at the food bank. And I always glance at the informational section, and a flyer just caught my eye, and it was something about pods and organizing. And I had never visited the center in Southeast. So, I was like, okay, this just really caught my attention. It's like, why not? So I made my trek down here in the old building, all these lovely groups of people wanting to learn more about organizing. So it was like a whole new world. It's become a second family to me. And right from then on, I just been hooked in everything about activism and organizing. The greatness of thinking broader and organizing is we're looking at future needs, and we're looking at at a plan of and a strategy towards doing hopefully an appeal to our elected officials, but also educating and opening the eyes of the struggle of the folks that are in the, they're trying to get the services to understand there is so much more that you can have and you deserve. And that's why I really have embraced Bread for what they've done for me. George and Aja have just been very gracious to listen to all of my ideas. I always have a million of them when it comes to raising up the voices of people like me. I'm a single mom of 2 teenagers now. And yeah, it's just a hard struggle. And just having a voice is just so empowering. Meeting so many people that were just like me, but not like me, they wanted more in life and they wanted to demand stuff. And, it's a way, it's like you feel safe
and that you never felt safe before. And, you know, being a person struggling, you really crave that. I didn't have that in my own life. Bread for the City definitely filled that void in me. And then the advocacy part just really, it's like I said, like a whole other safety net. Racial equity for me would just mean I don't have to fend myself day and night to be housed, to be fed. And if we didn't have those things to worry about, we could flourish, right? We're at a time where crime is so high and all they can think of is like policing us more. And I'm like, no, we need rent canceled. We need food readily available. We need to make sure our kids can get an education. You know, I just desperately need a world meant for me and my family, not a world meant against us.
It's so nice to see you, John, and be together here at our Southeast Center in person. For those of you who don't know, this is John Fee, the Bread for the City Board President. Thank you for being with us tonight, John.
Well, George, this, the Southeast Center, the Michelle Obama Center for Bread for the City, is exactly where I wanted to be during tonight's Good Hope Gala. What is exciting to see as we hear stories of our clients who organize and advocate for racial justice is that not only does Bread for the City support them, but each of them supports Bread for the City. Our community and this organization and what spaces we occupy only exist because of these individuals and these communities who not only use our services, but shape our work and push us to be better. Everyone watching tonight is part of that. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here with us tonight.
And I'm especially proud the majority of our board members who govern Bread for the City are current clients and patients.
Well, and our board work is expanding. We are looking to engage young professionals here in Washington, D.C., who want to give back and work closer to support our programs, our outreach, and our advocacy efforts. I'm so excited to announce the creation of Bread for the City's Junior Board, and what a wonderful time to get more involved in our local community. The need is more present than ever, but the joy in organizing towards solutions is also overwhelming. There is more information about how to join or show interest in the Junior Board in tonight's program, or you can go to breadforthecity.org/junior-board to learn more.
John, I'm glad you mentioned how organizing can be joyful. There's a certain joy in activism and direct action, and that joy itself is a form of resistance. And I'm looking forward to welcoming a new cohort of junior board members to partake in the joy, switching gears. Like John said, we want to thank everyone for being with us tonight. Your support is crucial as we continue to serve more and more people during what has proven to be the most challenging time in our history. Speaking of support, Ashley, how are we doing with our goal tonight?
Well, I have two exciting things to share, George. First, everyone at home is inspiring me and everyone here at the Southeast Center tonight. We're getting so many messages alongside donations tonight, and we've raised $119,000. That's halfway to our $219,000 goal to keep Bread for the City open for an entire week with all of your support at home.
That's really amazing. Thank you to everyone who's helping us reach this goal.
The second thing to share is that the amazing stories we've heard tonight, especially Bread for the City's investment in racial equity advocacy, has inspired one of our BFC families, Don Alley and Nick Berger, to rally everyone with a matching donation. Don and Nick will match every dollar that's donated between now and the end of the event this evening, up to $20,000. That means every donation that's made from now until the end of the show will be doubled, and that's going to get us closer and closer to that goal of $219,000.
Wow. Thank you, Nick and Don.
I have to say, I've been at Bread for the City for over 26 years, but the support this community has shown us over the last couple of years has been such a blessing to our work.
Right, and remember, You can double your gift now, thanks to Nick and Dawn, by scanning the QR code on your screen or going to our website. But for now, let's get back to the program and hear more from our advocacy heroes.
Hi, my name is Chearie Phelps-El. I'm a client leader at Bread for the City, and also I'm a core member. Core means community organizing, racial equity. It came into fruition with Aja Taylor, who's now the director of the advocacy department at Bread for the City. She introduced me to organizing and advocacy when I first came home from prison. When I came home from prison, I was homeless. I needed 2 hip replacements, and I was just a hot mess because everything was just so foreign to me. So Aja Taylor came in with Bread for the City, and she was talking about things for returning citizens, and I'm like, wow, that's me. That affects me because it was so many barriers, and I'm quite sure a lot of other returning citizens had the same barriers, but I found the resolution. Bread for the City on Aja Advocacy Department. I was a little puzzled because I was looking for jobs, but I wasn't getting hired, but that was a part of my parole stipulation to get a job. Then with voting, I wanted to vote. I wanted to be a citizen again. So I was like, well, how can I get it out? So the Aja said, well, if you're serious, you can come to Bread for the City and we can talk. So I came with my cane and all. I got here. She had a voter registration training, and I did the training. Then we went out to ask people to vote. I was like, wow. I said, well, how can people get jobs? I said, like, I'm on parole, but how can I get a job if they're not allowing us to get jobs? And that's part of our stipulations. So she said, well, she told me about the ban the box. And when she explained ban the box, it made sense. It's important that Bread for the City follows the leads of community members because what we're advocating and organizing and fighting for involves the community. What is special is being heard with my voice, and for me, not my fists, but my voice. And I know now that my voice counts. City Council, Congress, because they work for us. We don't work for them. So just going into my community and advocating, and we all come together, and it's just magic, pure magic, you know, like we're finally being heard. So it's like magic.
Our racial equity work is really robust and it is very ambitious. So it's something that staff see and feel as integral to doing their jobs well. And even though we have a slew of folks at Bread for the City who are really invested and committed, but we also have our full-time jobs. And so managing that work in order to really respect the labor that goes into executing and implementing a plan for an organization as large as ours and as ambitious as ours was going to require a dedicated position.
So many of us have roles that interact with racism, racial equity, and that is something that we think about almost every day in our work, but we wanted someone that could actually intentionally and purposely focus on that entirely so that that internal and external work could be done with leadership that wasn't adding more work to others.
I was really focused on who has a skill set that's different from what we already have in this organization. Who can really come here and move the ball forward? I think we have a lot of great ideas, but we're also really preoccupied in our day-to-day work in terms of working with individual patients or working with individual clients. We really need that help to bolster our work and our ideas.
We as a leadership team spent a lot of time reviewing the job description, thinking about what is possible for one person to accomplish. We didn't want to overwhelm our racial equity managers in a way that would cause burnout and then eventually not have the retention to really have continuity in the work. So I've been part of organizations where we looked at racial equity, but I think it was very much driven from the bottom up rather than top down. And I think that's what's unique about Bread for the City is that leadership and the board and other parts of the organization are committed to racial equity rather than it being something that is essentially pushing against the current. Everyone's working towards the same goal.
And what we ended up with were quite a few candidates who were pretty great. And in the end, we had 3 candidates who we felt each brought what we were looking for, but a different piece of what we were looking for the racial equity work. And so we did the hiring as a committee. Our racial equity leadership team hired by committee. Of those folks, we decided, like, could we hire all 3? Do we have the money to hire all 3? And George is like, yeah, we have the money to hire all 3. And Ashley's like, I bet we can get the money to hire all 3. And so we're really excited about the organization deciding to make that level of investment in this work because we know it's going to pay off.
Welcome to the dream team.
I became part of Bread for the City's community back in 2002. After 9/11, I worked for a law firm. I was an office manager, and they downsized me. So in order to stay, have structure in my day and stay focused, I would go down to Bread for the City and, volunteer in the food pantry. Bread for the City was a service provider, never had advocacy. And then the other orgs, came to us and was like, Bread, your name recognition is great, but you all need to put some skin in the game. We need your help with, in the fight. So once the orgs talked us into, having an advocacy department, we went to Bread's clients and we asked the clients, out of these 5 things, what do you want us to advocate for? Housing, food, healthcare. What's the one main thing you want us to advocate, do the most advocating for you? And it was housing. And we learned how to organize, we learned how to strategize, we learned how to do direct actions. And then it makes you feel really good after you do it. I mean, it's the one thing that when you leave or the end of that day, you know that you've helped somebody. And that makes you feel really good. It's good for your bones. It's good for your health. And then, Bread also helps us, become entrepreneurs, become our own little Bread for the Cities in our neighborhoods with our own businesses. And that gives you a sense of power. That gives you a sense of, hope. It helps you stand up and stick your chest out and straighten up your back and, like that. And you can take that into your community and help your community with the little things that they're going through. It gives you a sense of power in doing for yourself.
Hello, I'm John Fee, Bread for the City's board president. I'm proud to represent an organization that is not only there to help people in our community with food, clothing, legal representation, social services, and medical care, but that also provides social programs, a jobs training program, a women's empowerment program, for 2 examples. Bread for the City cares about the whole person, their families, and their communities, and we provide all those services with dignity and respect. We can't ignore that in each area of our work, throughout our entire wraparound service model, we encounter systemic barriers to lessening the burdens of poverty. Systemic barriers that our community members face every day. And many of those barriers disproportionately impact Black and brown residents of DC, just like in many other cities in America. That's why at Bread for this City, we know that working upstream on racial justice issues, working to identify and remove those barriers through coalition building and advocacy is so tied to the work we do in access to fresh and healthy food, in economic stabilization, in access to justice, in secure, safe, and truly affordable housing, and of course in access to affordable medical care. DC's food insecurity rate rose to 16%, up from 10% during the pandemic. In DC, food insecurity is highest among children and older adults, and we have the unfortunate distinction of having the highest rate of senior food insecurity in the whole country. But communities of color are almost 14 times more likely to report food insecurity than white neighborhoods in DC. Like George Jones says, you are what your record shows. And in DC, our record shows that the ability to afford and source food for your family is a racial justice imperative. When we talk about housing, we know that black majority neighborhoods have higher eviction rates than white majority neighborhoods. In DC, about 80% of all eviction filings happen to black majority neighborhoods, even though black residents make up just under half of the city's overall population. In a city like ours, with rich and vibrant black communities, housing access and justice is cut on racial lines. Just about 98% of tenants who are served an eviction filing in DC go to landlord-tenant court without a lawyer. Bread for the City's legal teams work against evictions in DC, and to keep residents in their homes is a racial justice issue. Many learned about health disparities and the social determinants of health for the first time during the COVID pandemic. The health outcomes that Bread for the City works to stem every day in our medical clinics were on full display for the last 2 years. But health equity is also racial justice. In a racially just society, your health outcomes would not be predictable based on the color of your skin. But in DC, black residents face a disproportionate burden of disease, such as diabetes, cancer, and heart disease, which we saw during the pandemic make this community much more vulnerable to infectious viruses like COVID. These health disparities are a result of long-standing injustices and are a choice we can change through our advocacy. At Bread for the City, we are going upstream to stem the causes of poverty. And in doing this, we cannot ignore the racial lines of poverty in the district. We are energized and excited for a future anti-racist DC and the opportunity to work across our areas of expertise that we've built over almost 50 years of directly serving this community to help shape what that looks like.
I'ma show you how I do. Just watch me now. Just watch me.
Huge numbers of people who had been incarcerated who were coming home in hoping to find jobs. And one of the sort of dynamics that started to play itself out, not surprisingly, is that these folks were routinely screened out of job opportunities. Anybody who what oftentimes called returning citizens.
So ban the box is a law that on no job applications in Washington, D.C., or no job interviews, could it be, are you a convicted felon? And it can't be mentioned in no interviews. And that opened the door like waves.
Disenfranchising returning citizens when almost all of the returning citizens in DC are Black is necessarily an issue of racial justice, right? When you look at the carceral system, even beyond DC, when you look at even our region, but even beyond our region, when you're looking nationwide at the proportionality of incarceration, things that benefit people who are incarcerated or are formerly incarcerated are almost inherently issues of racial justice because of who those systems disproportionately impact.
Our advocates really quickly got mobilized around making the case that these are people who had already paid their debt to society and deserved a second chance to, and just as importantly, needed a way to care for themselves. You know, if taxpayers don't want to pay for people who are returning citizens, they need to make sure they have a real fair chance to get a job.
And I helped with Band the Box. I did the walkthroughs at the city council. I really performed because it was really dear to me. And they had to know, like, the advocates can't tell you about Ban the Box. Somebody going through it had to tell you.
With the employment Ban the Box, we had a really broad coalition of folks who were representing returning citizens, organizations that were housing advocates or employment advocates. We had folks from the Public Defender Service as well as some folks from GW Law School.
And then a kind of spin-off of that was this idea of Ban the Box for housing. Similar questions were being asked about returning citizens and who were looking for affordable housing, questions about their criminal background and their criminal status. And so banning the box on rental applications was just as important. And so we turned our attention to that. And when I say we, I mean sort of a collection of advocates.
With the housing Ban the Box, it was the usual suspects: Legal Aid, Bread for the City, Washington Legal Clinic for the Homeless, and other homeless services organizations who were interested in ridding landlords from the opportunity of not renting to tenants because of criminal histories.
We were organizing like hell. And there was this last minute meeting that was called. And I leaned over to Chearie and I was like, oh, they are scared. There's like $1 billion in this room against, just little old us. We have like, $10 between us. And, that is, for me, that was a sign that they were scared and that they were worried. And when we actually did end up winning, and it was a huge deal because it was just a really great, beautiful example of the power of the people and what is possible when people decide that enough is enough.
Then the big test came. I applied for 2 jobs. And because of me being a returning citizen, they didn't give it to me. And I went to the Office of Human Rights and I presented my case. And I came out a winner at both times because not only did we put it in Congress, but the stipulations worked. So when everybody was coming to me like, Chearie, I put in this application and they got convicted felon. I say, go to Bread for the City. Then Bread for the City took them to the Office of Human Rights. So now, as of now, you don't see it on no applications. And doing interviews, they don't ask you at all.
But that was the first thing that sort of, the first campaign that really intentionally thought about the fact that how Black and brown people were disproportionately affected by it and what was happening systematically, the issue about that box. That was the systematic thing that was happening. And the fact that it was affecting Black and brown people is that intersection that we so oftentimes see. What's happening systematically, and is it affecting Black and brown people disproportionately? Again, in DC, almost exclusively.
Gosh, George and Ashley, it's hard to believe that another Good Hope Gala has come to a close.
That's right, and it's been an amazing evening to share with you all, and I hope everyone at home learned more about the upstream systems reform work that we do at Bread for the City and why it's an important aspect of our mission to help folks living here in Washington, D.C.
We also had a mission here tonight, a goal to raise enough funds to run Bread for the City for 1 full week. And we had a fantastic matching opportunity. Ashley, how'd we do?
So not only did all of you at home meet the generous match from Dawn and Nick, raising over $40,000 total together, but knowing how much this will go to support the community, it just makes me so happy to say that an anonymous donor was inspired to donate $400,000 to this effort. That brings our total for the evening to $526,000. That's enough to run Bread for the City for not only 1 week, but 2.5 weeks.
I'm so incredibly grateful for all of you at home, to Don and Nick and our anonymous donor, to our board members, client leaders, and all of our staff.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is the very best news.
From John, Ashley, and me, thank you for spending this time with us tonight, for your amazing support of our work, your openness to learn more about our advocacy efforts, and to come on this journey with us.
And here's to, hopefully, being together in person next year, again, at our next Good Hope Gala.
Cheers, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Thank you so much.
There's a real moral imperative to me to sort of care about your fellow man. You know, just from a moral standpoint, there's this, you know, I think justice-loving people should want to act on that and to sort of tackle it with open eyes about the fact that it's affecting people of color so disproportionately.
Embracing the differences of people because they exist no matter what we say or do, but that we embrace them and that we're only doing what we can to uplift everyone.
Ward 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 have all the same amenities, no matter what's the income. No matter how my income is, I can live there with ease. Not being, you're the low income, because that's the thing going on now when they saying they putting the communities, mixed communities. We shouldn't have that. It's just neighbors. You putting the unity back in community.
I don't have to fend myself day and night to be housed, to be fed. And if we didn't have those things to worry about, we could flourish.
Real economic opportunity that is embedded in the communities so that the communities get to define for themselves what success, what justice, what flourishing looks like.
Where access to health care is a right, where our children enjoy good schools, where we don't worry about public safety.
Empathize with everybody around you all the time, because we've all gone through trauma, everybody, you know, but we always got to come with that first.
At every level of government, the focus is in eliminating and eradicating anti-Blackness, where there are thriving Black communities, where it isn't some interracial utopia, but that Black communities are seen as integral to the fabric of DC.
I think it's saying we understand the history of our nation and the city, and we're embracing that and learning and unlearning from that, so that we can all be better and more compassionate and respect and see each other as human.
But there's also something in it for all of us, to be honest with you. I really believe that when the least privileged people in this community are better off, we all will be better off.
We've eradicated poverty, because in DC, if we eradicate race-based poverty, we're going to eradicate poverty. And that means that in DC, the eradication of poverty is an actual possibility if we make this city a racially equitable, a racially just city. And that really excites me, the idea that we can end poverty here in Washington, DC, and that we can be the first city in the nation to do that.
Our orientation toward one another, towards safety and toward justice is about interdependence. And I see and understand that my freedom and my well-being is wrapped up in the freedom and well-being of others. And so we act like that.
In other words, a community where we have accomplished many of the goals that Bread for the City so advocates for. A community where, frankly, Bread for the City just isn't necessary anymore.
Ain't never going home.
When the non-transferable invitation says business attire or national dress, you wear what they think is your nation. Get those, oh, I love your culture smiles from liberal white ladies. Tonight, you are here to perform Arts Panelist. Answer their questions about the ways we talk about what we do, and why, and what are the themes here, And do they burn you? Your friend was asked to share a poem and did, but not before they told him his best pieces are too political. And couldn't he bring something a bit more celebratory? And maybe he could use the word diversity in there. You sip your drink and snap when he takes the stage. Commend one of the few speakers here for whom diversity means me and the rest of the global majority. Lols. Remember that time you were in that play and it centered white fragility and white supremacy and the white gaze, and some of your white friends came and they were so excited, and OMG, we needed to hear that. And then remember how you keep telling yourself that maybe they could handle it if you alerted them to their casual supremacy and appropriated everything. How pavement puddles steaming with their preferences attract the most incisive stings. How you itch each time you spell and pronounce and recite silence in sympathy while they keep talking. But hey, maybe if you tried, you could chill that smog of sweat so humid you've been wearing it since the start of your 15th DC summer. Because these days we name every season. What is going on? And how much more can anyone? Every old poem about this country is relevant. Every TV show is streaming, bingeable, forever on repeat. Why? And what are the themes here? And do they burn you?